Okay, just to get things started then, let me start off with, oh, there's one right there? Okay.
Since everything is geared towards disaster and can we motivate people with something happier? Why is it like it's always negative? Like strike fear into their hearts so they'll save money.
I think absolutely. I mean, there's a balance between showing visions of, in my case, showing visions of the future that are positive and that are negative as well. I think we don't, there's kind of no hard data on it that I know of at least. But I think our own experience shows that just a very dystopian vision of the future, whether it's kind of at a societal level, at a personal level, isn't the most motivational. I mean, it could be the kick in the pants that you need to get going, but then you need some aspirational vision to work towards, and I think absolutely need to work in conjunction.
If you consider your Shahidi, it's just a crowd map. You can use it for anything you want. There are people who are plotting the zombie invasion because they think it's fun, but you can do the best food. You can do, where the best flowers bloom. I mean, you can use it for whatever you want. Crisis map is just the crisis version of the crowd map. It would be nice if you didn't have to use the crisis. You can use it for something else. And it's interesting that the cost of chicken stuff is the longest running, crowd map. I mean, and it's because it's not about disaster, right?
Rashad, do you have anything?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think social media is used for many more things than disasters, and we were talking about disasters because that was the topic of the panel, but I actually think that the use of social media during disasters is a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. It's how people are actually getting out of disasters or recovering from them, and they're using social media and using analysis of social media to understand what's going on and how best to survive it and to recover from it.
And I actually have a question about kind of a theme that comes up in different ways. The editorial lens that needs to be put around data in different cases, and that makes it meaningful. So it's not enough simply, I think, Rashad, you mentioned it a couple of times, it's very clear from some of the hacktivist work that in some of the other projects as well. I was wondering if all three of you could talk a little bit more about that and how sometimes the frames maybe miss the mark. So Ushahidi, for example, is a platform that is open. So you can start any sorts of projects. Some of them are more successful than others. So it kind of ties into the earlier question of not a negative form of stimulus, but what are some of the other things that are being used and how some of them are either successful or what some of those metrics are?
I guess I can start a little bit. I'm here to talk about Ushahidi, so I'll talk about that. It's in a disaster, you really do want information fast. If information is and you want it accurate and you want it normalized, if it's having that editorial, that room of students taking in the data and figuring out what's important, it was critical to helping. Somebody had to do that job. It couldn't be the medic on the ground. I was telling earlier that it would make a movie. It would make an absolutely amazing movie about what happened within the first 48 hours of setting up the map and the people they managed to save. It's a very positive thing. Not at all negative. It was the story of success, willpower, but it did need that. It needed that editorial control of the information early on. But if you're interested in doing something, it's about what is it that you want to do. You can impose your own editorial control over any kind of crowd map. What do I want to track? What do I want to find out? How do I want to connect with people all over the world to do something? And so this editorial power is in the power of the hands of the people who are doing this and doing it together.
Almost everything I showed was kind of an editorial take on what was originally some kind of, either data set or concrete-ish forecast about the future, projection about the future. I think one way to, I think the editorializing is great. I think it's a chance for persuasion, and actionability to really come into play. I think the visualization or the editorial should not be unlinked from the data, from the original data, and so that and I mean, ideally, someone if you tweak a few variables, you see how that vision of the future or how that whatever the visualization you're looking at, you see how it changes, and then you begin to get at that cause and effect yourself. But once it becomes unlinked from the data, then it becomes, then could be a piece of propaganda more than a strict visualization.
Yeah, I think online conversations or online public conversations, the fact that they're now online and they're accessible and have a broadcast medium, mean that social media is essentially a popular democratization of the editorial process. So everyone can be a reporter and an editor, and your success as an editor depends on how much people like how you edit things, right? And so it is kind of an open market of ideas and a market of channels. How much you retweet things, how much you share things are the things that, so we compute at Topsy this thing where we call it influence, and that's used to rank search results. We don't publish these things, but we use it to look at the measure of dissemination of a message each person has. And that really is a measure of your success as an editor. And if people don't like what you're saying, either yourself or what you're saying in terms of how you drive other people's messages through yourself as a channel, then they won't give you attention. And so it is really a massive editorial democratization. And it's, some would say, too massive, and some would say the democratic viewpoint is all about Justin Bieber. But then that's why I think the point is, when you have access to the whole universe, it's not that you disagree with the editor of the New York Times and now you're stuck with reading whatever is printed. No, you can go and read other stuff because it's all accessible and it's all searchable and all accessible.
Okay, so I guess we're out of time, and I just want to say one final thank you to all our speakers today, and thank you to you for attending.